Is going on, fellow PGA DFS grinders? Brian Berryman here with you from Fantasy Labs to break down the 3M Open for this week. Little bit different vibe than last week. Obviously, the Open Championship at St. Andrews has a little bit of a different ring to it than the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities. However, there is money to be made. And I am going to be taking you through how I use Fantasy Labs to identify the players that I will be using this week in my lineups. So let's jump right into it. I already have my model loaded in here for this week. If you guys don't have the model loaded, you can always get to it by clicking the down arrow in the top left corner and then going over to Pro Models and loading in either the cash model or the GPP model. For this week, I'll be focusing on the GPP model and taking you through some of the thoughts I have on the course, how I see things playing out, and a few players that I think are great fits for TPC Twin Cities. So some changes I made to the model this week. I added in more points to driving distance and driving accuracy. Based on my research that I've been doing on the course over the last couple of days, and looking at past performances here at this course, total driving is going to be important. Watching the flyover, it's very apparent that there are some tight landing areas off of these tees that are tucked between water, tucked between bunkers, and are going to require precision. I am looking for total drivers, elite drivers of the ball this week, as it's going to provide a huge advantage when it comes down to Sunday and we're down the stretch. I'm looking for the players that are going to be hitting the ball into the fairway and giving themselves birdie opportunities. Going over the course just a little bit, it's expecting to play around 7,400 yards this week, and it's quite the opposite setup than we had last week at St. Andrews. I mentioned the tight landing areas off the tee. It's not like St. Andrews where you could just grip it and rip it, and it really doesn't matter where it went. There are water hazards that come into play on 13 holes this week. There was no water last week, right? The only thing that they had to worry about was navigating a lot of those bunkers in the fairways. This week, it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more traditional American golf that we're kind of used to, but definitely going to be a premium on driving distance and driving accuracy. So I added that into the model this week. A lot of it has stayed the same for the most part, but I wanted to point out those two changes for those that watched the video last week. So now that the model is loaded in, I want to show you how I'm going to use the model to help me identify some players that I'll be looking to add into my lineups for the week. The first player that jumps out right away, Joo-Young Kim, right at the top of the board here, actually the highest rated player in my model this week. I didn't know a ton about Joo-Young Kim as he's kind of come onto the scene pretty recently. He is the 40th ranked golfer in the world, according to the official world golf rankings. He's been spending a lot of his time on the Asian and Korean tours, but he's come on very strong recently. He had a 23rd place finish at the US Open, followed that up with a 3rd place finish at the Scottish Open the week before St. Andrews. And he actually made the cut last week at the Open, finishing 47. So he's been on an impressive run. He is going to be a popular play this week, given his $7,300 price tag and the recent form. I don't know if I'll be going there in tournaments, but as far as a pure play, he does set up well for this course and is definitely an option for you guys to consider. It's just a matter of if you want to pay the ownership that will likely come with him. Keep an eye on the ownership as the week progresses. If he gets somewhere below 10, 12%, it may be worth a play. But right now, where it's standing at 18.7%, I'll probably be avoiding him in the large field GPPs and looking to pivot elsewhere. Next guy on the model that is popping is Brendan Steele. This guy has been on an absolute ball striking tear of late. He's made his last 7 cuts, and he has just been striking the ball immaculately. His last 3 events, he gained 7.4 strokes on approach at the PGA Championship, finishing 9th, 5 strokes on approach at Memorial, finishing 10th, and 5.7 strokes on approach at Travelers, where he finished 25th, but he did lose 6 strokes putting that week. So he is a good driver of the golf ball as well, averaging over 300 yards off the tee and hitting over 60% of his fairways. He should be a great fit for this course. Again, I do expect Brendan Steele to be a popular play given the recent form. I have him projected right now around 17% ownership. We'll keep an eye on that for you guys as the week progresses. And, I'll leave that one up to you as far as how strongly you feel about Brendan Steele. But I do think he is a very strong play this week at his $8,300 price tag. Last guy that I wanted to point out here is probably my favorite play on the board as it stands right now. Davis Riley, $9,000 on DraftKings. But for the way that he has been playing, it feels like a win is on the horizon for this guy. He is averaging over 307 yards off the tee, and he's hitting over 65% of his fairways. He's made his last 7 cuts, and 5 of those finishes have been top 13 finishes. He's been knocking on the door. He's a birdie maker. He's first in this field in birdie or better percentage over the last 50 rounds, and he should be an excellent fit for TPC Twin Cities. So I just think when you're looking at this board, let's sort this by salary here so we can kind of get a feel for it. It's a very, very unique setup. There's, what do we got? 7 guys at $9,000 or over. That's one of the lowest that I can remember. A lot of the opponents this week are going to be building very balanced builds, I would think, just given all the value in this middle range. So it's going to be interesting to see how things stack up and how our opponents are going to be building. It does appear that the top of the board will be also popular. Tony Finau, Hideki, and Sungjae are projected right now to be the 3 highest owned. But it should be interesting from a game theory standpoint how we want to approach those 3 players amongst others in this field that are projecting to be highly owned early in the week, which kind of leads me into my next feature that I wanted to talk with you guys about, which is this perfect percentage and sim leverage columns here under the simulations tab on the models screen. This is a new feature that we added at FantasyLabs probably about 3 to 4 months ago, I would say. And it's been a huge success and something that our members have been really raving about. I want to take you through how to best use it and which scenarios it works best for. So perfect percentage in itself, in a nutshell, is essentially how often that player is ending up on the optimal lineup through our simulations that we run on the back end here at FantasyLabs. So this is going to give you a tangible number that you can reference when you're talking about how likely someone is to be in that optimal lineup come Sunday evening. This is going to give you a good feel for the best plays on the slate if we're just sorting by perfect percentage. These are the plays that you're going to want to be looking at for your cash game teams. These are the solid plays that are projecting well, that fit the course well, that score well, and that should be able to outperform this field a good amount of the time. However, it's not that easy in GPPs, right? We all know that we need to differentiate. And so when we're looking for different ways to differentiate against the field, I love to use the sim leverage column. What the sim leverage column is essentially taking the player's perfect percentage and subtracting it against their projected owned to give you a number, positive or negative, as far as how much expected value you could get from that player if we were to play this tournament out thousands and thousands of times. Obviously, we're only playing it out once in real life, but by making these plus EV decisions over and over and over again throughout the course of your DFS careers, you will be profitable. So using this sim leverage column is an excellent way to build your lineups, both for cash games and for GPPs. So focusing here on GPPs, I want to sort by sim leverage to try to identify some guys that may be going overlooked, at least early in the week. Keep in mind, it's Monday when I'm recording this video. Projected ownership is nowhere near where it will be on Wednesday. These things are very liquid. They change quite frequently. So I would check back here on Wednesday when ownership is a little bit more solidified to give you guys a better feel as far as who's going to be the highest owned, who's going to be going overlooked. But for right now, say it's Wednesday night and this is the board that we're looking at. I would sort by sim leverage to try and get a feel for some of the guys that might be going overlooked and who I would be trying to load up on in GPPs to try and capture some upside and some EV. Some guys that are standing out towards the top of the board. Sahith Theegala right now, we have him at a 21% perfect percentage and a 14% projected own. With the way that Sahith can score, the birdie numbers that he can pile up on a course like this, if I can get him in a plus EV spot where I'm getting some leverage on the field, that would be a spot that I would look to take advantage of. Because again, we're looking in GPPs, we're looking for upside. We're looking for guys that can come in the top 10, come in the top 12, win the golf tournament. Sahith checks all those boxes. He's been close throughout many tournaments over the last 6 months. And I do think that he fits this course very well. So I would be keeping an eye on Sahith for a potential leverage spot. But that's kind of an example of how I would use sim leverage to identify a play. There's numerous examples here. I talked about my love for Davis Riley, Cameron Champ, who is last year's winner, hits the ball a mile. So use the sim leverage column to try to identify yourself or try to identify plays for yourself that may be going overlooked by the field. You could also do it in the inverse, where you're looking for players that are going over-owned by the field. I love this for trying to identify who I'm going to potentially be fading in GPPs. So we talked about Joo-Hung Kim and Brendan Steele, how they do fit the course and they are good plays. But if we come in here on Wednesday night and they're nearly going to be double projected owned than they are in the perfect lineup, that makes for a great fade candidate. It's uncomfortable. Of course, we know that they are good fits. There's a good chance for them to succeed, but the perfect percentage is there to give you a tangible number on how likely they are to end up in that optimal lineup. So if the perfect percentage is saying, our simulations are saying these players are going to be in the optimal lineup 10% of the time, but they're owned 18 and 17% of the time, you're getting nearly double-digit leverage by not playing them. And that's a spot that I would take. But again, use your own judgment, use your own research, use your own risk tolerance when it comes to GPPs, and use your own playing style to help you identify what you want to do when it comes to some of these guys that are on the high end of the negative sim leverage column. These will be the guys that should be in consideration to be your fades of the week. That is all I had. I really appreciate you guys watching and would love any feedback that you have. So feel free to comment on this video. I'll be checking in and answering any of your questions. Also, if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, I would much appreciate that as well. My Twitter handle is @Berryman, but instead of the B, it's a 13 for 13. So my Twitter handle is @13ERRYMAN. Feel free to shoot me a follow on Twitter, send me a DM with how I can make these videos better. Any feedback I would appreciate it. And I wish you all good luck this week at the 3M Open, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.